Hey everybody, it's Donna Reed with Up With People Cast 1976A, and most of you know that by now. Doing something different tonight. Tonight I have a guest with me who happens to be at my house. We're sitting side by side, and I've never done this before in any of these. So this is Wayne Chandler. Wayne, tell everybody when you traveled.
Oh, wow. So my first year was 1978, 79. And then I came back and traveled in 81, 82 and 82, 83.
Okay, and clearly he's in Tucson. So where did you first see a show, Wayne?
The first time I saw a show was in 1976. And then I saw another one again in 1977. I had neighbors who had hosted Up With People. And so I would go to their houses and hang out with them. And so I got to meet a lot of cast members who had traveled earlier on before I ever traveled.
So did you see him over at high school at CDO, or did you see him downtown, or where'd you see them?
Well, I saw them in the neighborhood because they were being hosted. I didn't really interact with anybody at CDO High School until we did stagings there.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what year did you graduate high school?
Graduated in 1978.
78. So you're a couple years younger than me. So so you saw the cast in 76. Was that the bicentennial era
Yes.
show? Okay.
And then I saw the show the next year, which would be the show that I got to perform in, which was Push On Through.
Did you do music or theater at high school?
In high school, I actually did the concert choir and the ensemble. So I did sing in high school.
Okay. So concert choir, was that like the formal kind of thing?
77 students, and
okay.
The tuxedos and all that. And then
that's fun.
We dressed it down a little bit to leisure suits and things like that for the ensemble.
Suits, that's a flashback word. Okay, so you did Push On Through.
Yes.
When you so you staged clearly right here in town. Did you guys host other cast members while you were staging?
I was encouraged to host, and I did end up hosting a young man by the name of Ray Adams. And Ray and I actually ended up traveling together.
You've stayed friends.
Ray and I are like brothers. As a matter of fact, when Ray was a little green and he wasn't up on life at the time with the rest of us were when I was 18.
On top of things.
And so I'll never forget, before our bus pulled out of town, my mother dropped us off. And she pulled me aside, she gave me a hug, and she whispered in my ear, "Make sure you take care of Ray because he's going to need you." And so today we're still tight.
That's so sweet. Okay, so you're down at the U of A, you audition like everybody else. And what I recall from seeing you is that you did a lot of dancing. Is that right? Did you get cast like right then early on to dance?
Yeah, I did. I was fortunate in that I've always danced. I've enjoyed dancing.
Okay.
Going back to talent shows when I was in elementary school. So yeah,
it's fun.
So I danced and then so I come up with people on audition. It was a little strange because what I was doing was more free form, but this is choreography. So that was
Morris, who had rules.
Oh yeah, Lynn had rules and love that lady to this day. I'll tell you, she's a big part of my life. But yeah, I decided that I wanted to learn how to dance, and my influence was a guy by the name of Umberto Alabalo. I was like, this guy moves like a glass of water in a vase, and I got to learn how to move that. Yeah, we do have to make sure Umberto sees. He'll hate me for saying that, but hey, Umberto, love you, man. It's true.
A glass of water. Words. So Push On Through, that was I helped do costumes in January of 78. So you would have been summer of 78 when you started. Okay. And what would be a song from the show or two that really maybe have touched your life through the years?
That's a tough one because
Perpetual
the Caldwell brothers have written, Perpetual should. The Caldwell brothers gave us just a grip of incredible music to perform.
Yeah.
And if I had to just break it down and single it down to one song, it would be the song "Give the Children Back Their Childhood."
Oh, that's interesting. We did that in our show too. Why does that speak to you?
Because as I've gotten older, and I'm getting old, as you can see.
Getting the gray.
Yeah, getting the gray.
Mine's naturally. This is with the bright light over top.
as I've gotten older, I've reflected back on those things that were important, and I'm not a guy who looks back. I just continue to look forward. And so recently I found myself looking back at my childhood and all that I experienced, and I think that there's a need to give children back their childhood, as well as you get older, to retain some of your childhood like behavior. We do, yeah.
We
We're
went
going
to
back
the
to
stage
being
where
kids.
we stopped playing or something.
Correct.
And then, whatever that looks like.
Correct.
I think we have to behave a certain
Yeah,
way.
that's true.
So, by the way, I've taken a sip of my wine, just so you know, he has some too. I just don't want you to think that I'm drinking here alone. Cheers. Anyway, so give the children back their childhood. That was done in the 70s, and then it's been done different ways through the years, like certain songs where they've changed the tempo or the endings or thing to kind of go along with time. Okay, as a dancer, was there a song or two that you really liked to dance to?
Let's see. Again, thank you, Len. You gave us so much great choreography, and I got to participate in so much of it throughout my time with Up With People. I think more of the upbeat stuff kind of rocked my world, especially being able to participate in some of the choreography. So I'm going to selfishly say,
did you get to help?
Yes, thank you, Lisa Rebeck. Talking with my feet, hands down, because it was one of the first time I was brave enough to say, "Hey, Lynn, you need to show me." No, that came later. It was much later.
Yeah.
So, but in my show, if I had to pick a song that I enjoyed dancing to, it would be Fourth Grade Band.
Oh my God. That is one of the ones that I think they should do at reunion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Instead of doing all the ones that everybody knows, like they should throw in the ones that like are just.
Well, in the 60s, we can't do Push On Through anymore. So we're going to have to do Fourth Grade Band and some of the.
Just march.
Yeah, you just march and you got it made. Everybody's happy.
You know what? Fourth grade band, because I was in band as a kid. I also like the one, "Here's to all you parents raising kids while the kids are raising Cain." And maybe as I get older, I think about that, because then it's kids and then people have grandkids and all that. But I think some of those would be so much fun to relive at reunions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fun. That's fun. Fourth grade band. If you've never seen it or heard it, for some of you listening, you should. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
It's old school.
It's yeah. Sometimes when I interviewed Paul and Steve, and sadly Ralph and Herbie aren't around to interview, but even talking to Ken Ashby and stuff about, like why did you write a song? What was happening in the world? And one of the ones that Paul wrote that I loved was the one about Yugoslavia, where it's, and there are a lot of talk sing, right? But the stories, and with him playing the mandolin, man, that one just gives me chills. Yeah.
Well, mentioning the Caldwell brothers, I've not told many people this, but most people go to an interview and they sit down with a cast member, staff member in the interview. I actually went to the office on Campbell.
Oh, wow.
And
3103.
And I not only interviewed, but I auditioned for all the Caldwell brothers.
You auditioned?
Yes, they did. I did both. They actually interviewed me to travel and Up With People. So it's their fault.
That's awesome. I was telling you earlier about Bob Huff apologizing to Ralph 40 years later or something. And I told Paul a story about doing costumes with Ralph and PJ and Lynn. And I'm super sarcastic, and none of them knew that. And they all just looked at me like I was crazy. And Paul says, "I'm pretty sure that Ralph probably forgave you for what happened." So, all right. So Up With People, after you traveled, you did staff for a couple of years. Were you a dance captain, or what'd you do?
So I came back as an assistant dance captain, and then I came back into stagings.
Okay. It's because you were living in Tucson. So
I was living in Tucson, and I always kept that connection with Len. So there was that opportunity. And then Up With People set up a professional cast. So there was a cast that was people who were considered to be professional singers and dancers. So we did convention shows.
Oh,
and it became the convention cast. So
interesting.
So I had I think I have to be honest with you, the last time I walked off of an Up With People stage in a show was probably 99, 2000. So Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was just like tape stuck to a shoe. You couldn't get rid of me. I just kept showing up and showing up. Yeah.
Berto and some of those others, Maria, there was probably others there.
Yeah, yeah, Mia and the whole group.
Yeah. That's neat. Okay, so you travel as staff, you're off the road then at that point. Are you doing the convention thing, and were you working then, or had you gone to college, or what had you done kind of during that
so
time?
I was doing convention cast, and then I was doing working for a company doing corporate meeting planning and special events.
Okay.
And so that kind of tapped into my creative side. It's the company was it was in Tucson, but it was an international company. So I did that and got to do quite a bit. Got to take my talents from doing stagings and things like that, and actually put them into productions for corporate meetings and events. And so
nice.
It involved actually one of the shows that one of the events that I did an international theme night up at Ventana Canyon Resort.
Fun.
And the entertainment was Up With People. Oh, so I built a cast of Up With People. Right, they'd been on the road for a couple of days. We brought them in, and they did a show. And probably the craziest thing is that the CEO of the company was so moved by what he saw and he was experiencing that he came over and hugged me and picked me up off the ground. I'm not a small guy, you know.
He picked you up off the ground.
So wow.
Whoa. That's amazing. That's very cool. All right. So you and I have spoken a little bit more recently. We work in similar industries. Most of you know by now I'm a realtor. So I think that, gosh, I don't even remember how I first found out that you were doing loans, commercial loans. And maybe you visited my BNI chapter, and that's been, I don't even know how many years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however many loans. So when did you start working in that industry?
So when for me, my life is a series of interesting stories, but only to me. And so as the story goes, I had finished my bachelor's. I was going to the University of Phoenix.
Okay.
And I was working for Circuit City at the time in the management team. A gentleman came in and had an issue with a plasma television. And so he was so impressed with the customer service that 2 weeks later, he called me and asked me if I'd be interested in working in a bank.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So I thought, wow, that sounds cool. I don't know anything about banking. And he said that he can teach you banking, but what you know about customer service, we can't teach.
Yeah.
Ironically, this had an Up With People tie, because this gentleman spoke to a former alum who's no longer with us, Bill Holmes, and Bill said, "Oh, I know this guy. You'll love him. He's great." And so that's how, so that's where it started. And so I was eager to specialize because I didn't want to work in the retail bank, running a cash box and, doing the retail banker role. And small business always fascinated me. And so I decided that I would go down that path. Problem is I couldn't get anybody to bring me in and teach me. So I said, forget it, I'm going to learn. Okay. So through trial and error, lumps and bumps, I've learned the business. And so I went from working for.
Were you at Wells Fargo then? Because
I was at Wells Fargo, and then moved to New Mexico and worked for UWPIAA.
Okay, I remember talking to you when you were in New Mexico.
Yeah, yep. And so it was there that I was actually what was called a hybrid manager. So I was actually generating more business than the small business people. So so that's where the energy came from. And I think what helped me was the fact that I had spent so much time in Up With People, and the key to having a great time in Up With People is the conversations you have with people, and that naturally lent itself to me having a lot of opportunities to do things.
Okay, so now you're back in Arizona. So just so you know, it's ironic. We literally live less than a mile from each other.
It's true.
And I was at his house for the first time in the fall, after living here for 22 years. And so recently Wayne put a post. He is a Facebook user, kind of, sort of, and he does these soapbox things that are honestly, people enjoy reading. And those of you that know me, that are friends of mine on Facebook, I write a lot. So I just messaged him and I said, you should come for dinner. And then I just said, how do you feel about doing this interview? So here we are. So the last few months, you've been doing something different again.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing?
So I I ventured away from the bank because I kind of had a side gig doing commercial lending, but was doing lending as well with the bank. And so COVID, of course, was a tough time. And so unfortunately, I was a victim of change. And so I had to do something different. And I thought, I need to reinvent. I need to reconnect with myself. So I went and got my CDL. And I've been
for those of you who don't know, he can drive a truck.
Yeah, that's commercial driver's license. So I've driven an 18-wheeler across the lower 48 states for the last 8 months, and I've probably crossed the country about 14 times now.
Wow. So all that's because when I saw you, you were just getting ready to take the test, right? Wow. I was like, oh, how's the truck driving? So, and then like many, got sick and been home for a little bit right now. So you and I talked a little bit about your enjoyment of writing. Tell everybody like sort of the resurgence of that, and share a little bit, if you will, about what you said to me about nurturing this piece of you that maybe you're discovering right now.
I have always had a creative side, but never really knew what to do with it. I knew that I could sing. I knew that I could dance. And if I couldn't, I was going to learn how to.
Okay.
And so that was important, but I felt like something was still missing. And so I guess it was probably 19. That's going way too far back.
Yesterday.
Let's say it was 20. Let's say it was about 2013.
Okay.
And my ex-wife had lost her job in New Mexico. And so she was transitioning to go work out of state.
Yep.
And so I found myself needing an outlet because at times I felt like I was really struggling with depression. And so writing was my outlet. And out of the clear blue, my soapbox emerged. And so my whole thought around my soapbox is, I want to deliver a message, but kind of not deliver a message, but give you enough to make you think, to come to some of your own conclusions, or to prompt you to think. That's why they're not
compared to telling you what to
exactly, and that's why they're not very long. I purposely keep them short. And for those people who are out there on Facebook and you write, please, no novels. It's short, sweet, quick. Get out of it and let somebody else enjoy it. So I decided that I had to find a way to say a lot with a few words, but I also had to find a way to get readers interested in what I was having to say. And so I had to find a way to hook people with one thing, but I really meant something else.
Oh, interesting.
So I get you reading about this.
But this is a bit.
For instance, my last one where I talk about Christmas and how commercialized it is and the preferred gifts over the years. And of course, I beat up on Barbie. Sorry, Barbie, I love you. I don't have them. But the point that I was making is that with all we've been through in the last couple of years, with all the toxicity that's been out there, I've seen this reemergence of kindness and love and goodwill towards absolute strangers. And so I thought, maybe this is a way of me saying Merry Christmas, but sending a message to people of a random act of kindness is always welcome. So yeah, that's where that comes from.
All right. So you and I just had a discussion about Les Brown.
Yes.
I think we still have time. Do you mind sharing some of that story? Because we talked a lot, you guys, about just relationships and people and what matters. And he already mentioned it about how you can't teach somebody customer service. You either just do it or you don't. You can learn to put a tire on a car, maybe, but you can't necessarily learn customer service. So share your Les Brown story.
So I know no strangers. No one's a stranger to me. It's just a matter of I can be in an airport and people will strike up a conversation. I don't start it. I don't know why, but they do, and I'm happy to finish it. So I happen to be at a truck terminal overnighting, and I went inside to have coffee and watch sports. And there was a gentleman there playing a keyboard, and he had headphones on. So I respected his space. And when he finished, I walked over and struck up a conversation with him. And so he says, "Yeah, I write music while I'm driving." I'm thinking, "Wow, I'm doing loans while I'm driving. He's doing music while he's driving." Hey, so we connected, and so in our conversation, he mentioned that he has a podcast and that he is a motivational speaker. And I said, "Oh, wow." So I had him tell me more about it. And then I said, my favorite motivational speaker is a guy by the name of Les Brown. And so I talked about Les Brown because I've read a lot of Les Brown's material. I've watched all of his videos, maybe twice. And I ended with one of my favorite lines, which is Les Brown says, well, there's two. One is, when you're soaring with eagles, it's hard to fly down and pick up a chicken. And he was referencing his relationship with people, how you need people who can soar with you, and that you can't hang on the ground when you're an eagle. You got to be up in the sky.
You got to surround yourself.
You've got to surround yourself with people who can soar. And then the other one was Les Brown used to say, if you fall down, try to land on your back, because if you can see up, you can get up. And so I shared that with this gentleman, Scott. He says, wow, that's cool. He says, let me show you something. So he opens his phone and all these photos and their thumbnails. And I look at his phone. I said, hey, that's Les Brown. I said, I know who that is. I said, and that's his son, Calvin. I said, I don't know who the girl is. I said, she's cute. I don't know who she is. And he said, well, that's my cousin. I said, oh. I said, your cousin? He said, yeah, Les Brown's my uncle.
Oh my God.
And so we exchanged information. And he said, you know what? I'm so touched by what you had to say about my uncle. Let's call him. And he took his phone out. He dialed up Les Brown.
What'd you say? Like, did he answer? Or did you say hi? And then his cousin told him kind of what, or his nephew told him what was going on?
It was so short. It was a blur because I was in shock.
Yeah,
I actually met someone related to Les Brown. And I thought, yep, here we go again. Wayne, that's your life. Yes. A series of interesting stories, but only to you.
But it does. I think that most of us who are in Up With People feel pretty comfortable with having conversations with almost anyone, you know. And to me, that's, something that either we learned or it was already there, and then it was nurtured, in Up With People, that you had to become that way and go on from there. So Up With People is reforming in a new way that most of us don't understand yet. Have you seen any information introducing the new CEO? Her name is Seema.
I've seen a little information. I've read some of the information that's out there on the website, but not as much.
Yeah. So we had a gathering of probably 30 of us at Wooster's the other, and I wondered if you might be there if you were in town. So a group of us got together over at Phil and Leanne's and talked about the future of Up With People. And Up With People, it's going to be, the program's called Voices. So if you haven't heard that, it's called Voices, and it's going to be a shorter program. But at the end of the day, when we traveled back in the 70s, there was not a million options for travel. Like, I remember for me, the fact that I was picking up and going on the road and get to travel all over was this huge thing in the newspaper. And now kids pick up and go, and they go for 6 months and they work on a kibbutz and they backpack and they couch surf and they do all these different things. So given that a program that stems from Up With People, that's not going to be like the Up With People we knew, but they're going to have 18 to 25-year-olds. What would you say? You meet a kid coming out of high school. You still live near CDO, so you meet a kid and they're talking about, man, I don't know what I want to do. I might want to go. I like serving, whatever. How might you encourage someone to do what you did, but in a different format?
Well, first, let me say this. I think that the reality of life is change.
Oh, yeah.
In 1978, when I started, I had a huge afro. I then went to a flat top and I had a mustache. So I've kind of morphed through change, and all of a sudden gray hair decided to show up.
It just is there.
I didn't invite it, but it came on its own. So I think change is a constant, and that's the one thing that we have to accept. And I would say to any alum that have traveled, get used to it, because the show changed over the years.
That's true.
The program changed over the years, and so have all of we. And so the one thing that we hold on to is that great moment from the past, and that's what reunions are for. And now we have to champion a new cause. And so what I would say to a young person today is, instead of directing them in a way that they should go, I'd like to know more about what their plans are. And then as I learn more about their plans, tie in how Up With People, Voices would be a great way for them to experience the world, as well as saving their parents a lot of money on years of college that they may not
Be ready for
be
you.
ready for, or even want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, what you just said goes all the way, just right back to customer service in every way.
Yeah.
You got to know what the customer wants.
Exactly.
And at that point, those kids are the customers, right?
Exactly.
And rather than trying to sell them something, you got to find their need.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I would have no such success at all in this day and age if I had the same platform shoes and bell-bottom pants. Yes, I did. But there's no way that I would expect a kid to see that and be able to relate to it.
Yeah.
But I have the opportunity to relate to them because that just goes into my book of experiences. It really does.
Your short stories. All right. So this is supposed to be a lightning round here. We'll see if we can make it.
Okay.
Because somebody asked. So is there a food that you can remember trying on the road that you never, ever, ever would eat again? Or was there something you tasted for the first time that you're like, I love that, and I'm going to have that whenever I can get my hands on it?
Okay. Yeah. Caviar. No.
So where did you taste it? Do you remember?
I was in Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah. Caviar is out.
Host family?
Host family. Yeah, caviar is in.
Eggs.
Venison is in. I had a venison burger and that was really good.
Was that like somewhere in the West, US?
It was in Vail, Colorado. And ironically, again, another connection. I was at a friend of Jerry Shelsta's brother, Rod Shelsta's house. And that's where I had a venison burger and it was awesome.
That was awesome. Okay. And place that you went, well, no. Because you've obviously been to a lot of places. So if you were to choose and you're saying, dang, I only have one more trip in me that's going to be across the water someplace, not in your truck. Can't drive there. Where might you want to go?
You know what? There are many people who go to Europe and they go to Amsterdam, they go to Switzerland, Italy,
France, Paris. Yeah.
You know, I'd go back and do a longer stay is Belgium. Love Belgium.
It's a great little country,
yes,
isn't it?
I'd go back there on a heartbeat.
Yeah, I was there for 3 days in August, and it was random because my trip changed when I got COVID.
Yeah,
and 2 little towns outside of Brussels, and I remember stayed with an alumni.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Do you want to go downtown to the Grand Place?" And I'm like, "Yeah, been there. I don't have to do that. I just want to hang with you guys."
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great little country. Yeah. What about did any of your travels take you to Asia or South America?
Mexico, as far as I went.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I have mixed feelings. It's funny, as a tall blonde girl, I feel like if I go to Asia, I'm going to be like heads above everybody. And I'm like, so when somebody comes here, I should be able to acclimate to that. I should be able to deal with that. A number of the alumni that are going on the safari that John Parker puts together, some of them for the second or third time have talked about that experience in Africa and how fascinating that is. So, alrighty. So we talked food, we talked countries. Any last words that you would like to say to the alumni?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
I've had the opportunity to establish relationships with alumni from many, many eras.
Right.
And I'm blessed, and I know that. What I would say to each of you is don't keep what you've experienced to yourself. Give it away. Yeah. Share it.
To yourself.
Yeah. Share it with people, because we're at a place in time where we need to share more than ever. Giving is huge.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Thank you for this impromptu interview.
You're welcome.
And you guys, the lighting, whatever it is, there's absolutely no plan in this, as you can probably tell. However, I think that it worked out really well, and appreciate you sharing some of your story. And I will let you know when we get it live, so you can rock out and share your stories.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
You're welcome.